While BattleBit Remastered has only been out in early access for around a month now, the community has already found itself locked in heated debates around the game's wider balance. And if anything, I think we can all agree that people are probably feeling the strongest and most pointed about the game's weapon balance. There's a few weapons in particular that always seem to be sitting on the tip of people's tongues. The Vector, the Groza, the FAL, the P90, and with that, I felt like it was my time to finally wade in on the conversation. G'day there once again viewers, your mate Kamikaze78 here, and today, let's talk about some of the harsh realities behind weapon balance in BattleBit Remastered. So folks, I acknowledge that this is going to be yet another divisive video topic, similar to the medic video that we did a few weeks ago. I'm sure that we all have our own thoughts and feelings on how weapon balance should be done, but ultimately, I'm trying to approach this video with the intent of keeping the conversation as constructive as possible. I'm also really keen to keep the conversation flowing in the comment section down below, and over on our Twitch channel whenever we're doing a live stream as well. So as a cheeky reminder there folks, make sure you're following the Twitch channel, which is the first link in the description down below. We actually just applied for Twitch partnership once again at the time of writing this video, so any support over on that platform would be greatly appreciated. But yeah, looping back, the conversation around weapon balance has obviously been very pointed lately. And just out of the gate here, before we get too far, yes, I agree that there are some outliers in the weaponry arsenal right now that could very easily use some adjustments. And I might as well directly address the elephant in the room and do some naming and shaming right up front here. As much as it pains me to say it, the Vector is one of those weapons that needs some adjustments. I love my Vector as much as the next man, it has my in-game creator skin on it, so obviously there's some perceived bias there. And yes, I've been known to use it a lot. I'm pretty sure it's the weapon in the game right now that I have the most amount of kills with so far. But the objective, non-biased, no bullshit part of my brain definitely agrees that the weapon needs a slight nerf to reel it back in with some of the other weapons in the game. Now, as to what that nerf exactly is, I've seen suggestions of varying severity, ranging from just limiting the number of magazines it can carry at a time to completely removing it from the game. While we are on the topic of the Vector itself, for me, the nerf simply comes down to nerfing its weapon accuracy stats. This will allow the Vector to keep its CQC dominance, as it should do so, while restricting its effective range and ensuring that it isn't just blasting ARs out to ranges that just feel insane where ARs should be winning. It keeps the Vector feeling situationally effective and not as overbearing as it has been as of late. And to me folks, that's definitely the mentality I feel like we should be taking when it comes to weapon balancing overall, ensuring that every gun has a clear-cut, defined role or niche in the arsenal while not completely strong-arming the other weapons out of the mix. Even if that niche is to be a jack-of-all-trades option, there needs to be a level of definition to a weapon's particular role. The Vector, by design, is very clearly meant to be the close-quarters dominant SMG in the game. The gun that you take if you want to be just a balls-to-the-wall, high-tier aggressive player who's looking for the optimal time to kill and mobility. The Vector is your pick. However, in taking that approach to balancing and in giving weapons clear-cut, defined roles, you are always going to run into weapons that are, statistically speaking, going to outperform others in the hands of higher skilled players in certain situations. While a lot of players tend to throw the Vector into the no skill and only crutches use the weapon category, it is a weapon that skilled, aggressively minded players gravitate towards because it affords them more capability with their chosen playstyle. And I feel like this serves as a great opportunity to temper some expectations when it comes to nerfing weapons like the Vector while keeping them effective. And I'm going to temper the expectations by saying that folks, even with a nerf, the Vector is still going to dominate you in a lot of the CQC fights that occur in this game. It is still going to be a top pick for a lot of the players out there that are using it today, and it's still going to be something that will kill you lightning fast in close quarters combat. It is, by design, something that is attractive to the likes of the movement schmoover shooters out there who are looking to farm kills like nobody's business. The Vector is OP right now, there's no denying that. It's reaching out to ranges that it really has no right to do so. But even if we were to statistically balance the weapon and confine it more harshly to its close quarters environment, there may always be an element of it being perceived as overpowered because it's the weapon your higher skilled players gravitate towards to the most. And to make that abundantly clear, that doesn't necessarily make the weapon overpowered, it just means that it's the most effective tool for the job in an arsenal of unique weapons. Which is very similar to players on the opposite side of the coin who choose to play a little bit slower. power, say picking a weapon like the AUG that affords them better accuracy and better bullet velocity for those longer ranged engagements. The problem there is that the AUG, by nature, due to its accuracy, deals less damage. That's just the trade-off that it has for that degree of accuracy that it gains. Which means that you can push the AUG as hard as you want to, but theoretically speaking, it's never going to be quite as effective as farming kills as, say, a Vector, a Foul, or a Groza is going to be, just by nature of its existence. And this is the element of where a meta or metas enter the conversation. For those who don't know the definition of meta or are unfamiliar with the term, in essence, a meta in gaming terminology is a generally agreed upon strategy by the community. Said strategy is considered to be the most optimal way to win or have the best performance at a specific task. Some people have defined the meta as an acronym, meaning most effective tactics available. And I know that there are many out there in the community who absolutely detest the idea of a meta. For some, it dulls the experience of the game way down and makes it a boring cookie cutter experience. You know, it boils it down to either you use what is considered to be the meta of the game, or you become ineffective in your gameplay immediately. But another harsh reality here, folks, is that metas in these player versus player first-person shooter environments are always going to exist. Anytime you offer your player base any extent of customization to their loadout while offering gear with different stats and performance metrics, players are going to min-max gear that works for them. It's the nature of some players opting to play with a more competitive mentality. Now, in saying that, there's certainly an extent to which metas can exist and how inclusive they are of the gear throughout the game. And yes, while I do believe metas are a harsh reality of the game that we're playing here, BattleBit Remastered, there's certainly a scale in which they can be applied. Now, to put that into far simpler terms, let's ask a simple question. Are there 3 or 4 guns that are considered to be the meta at the time, or are there 8 to 10 guns that are considered to be meta at the time? In a game like BattleBit, where there are 44 weapons across all the categories, if you have only 3 to 4 guns that are considered to be the meta at the time, you probably have a problem on your hands when it comes to the balance. And I think that might be where we're trending right now as far as the perceived balance is concerned. I also put a really hard emphasis on perceived there because while we are a month into this game's life cycle already, there's still a large percentile of the player base out there that don't have the majority of weapons in the game unlocked. As I've said before, there are some weapons in the unlock tree that I would argue sometimes beat the Vector as far as its overall effectiveness is concerned, but you don't unlock them until level 100 plus, which means that the majority of the player base hasn't had a chance to nut out all of the different weapons and options that exist in what I would call the meta of the game. Things like the P90, the Foul, even the Scorpion Evo if you can control that thing's recoil. Now, before anyone says why can't all guns in the game be considered a part of the meta, because I know that's a comment coming in the comment section down below. Folks, the only way to achieve this is by ensuring that all weapons are identical in nature. And I promise you that if every gun in BattleBit Remastered felt mechanically identical in order to achieve this perfect world balance, that'll actually do far more harm for the replayability of the game. There'll be no variety to the weapons that you pick up and use. There'll be no reason to unlock new guns in the first place, and there'll be no sense of challenge followed up by accomplishment to master a new weapon that you've just unlocked. So, as I said before, a meta is always going to exist, but taking the time to balance the gear of your game with the goal of getting players to argue amongst themselves of which gun is the best versus having this clear-cut answer that everyone agrees upon unanimously is a step in the right direction. Now, I've also heard suggestions in the past that follow the lines of, just remove the gun. If something is always going to remain in the meta by virtue of its design, then it shouldn't be in the game. I promise you folks, another harsh reality of weapon design and weapon balance in these games, where weapons are unique by nature, is that if we followed that mentality, the moment you take a dominant weapon out of the game, full stop, another will just take its place. Again, for a lot of people here, it might not necessarily be a problem with the weapon itself, but the way in which that weapon is being used by a player of very high skill, who in which the weapon attracts. And as we said before, some of the weapons that are in this game are going to certainly attract a certain type of demographic of players because they have the know-how on how to really abuse the weapon's characteristics. The Foul, for example, has the best time to kill in the assault rifle category, but also some of the shakiest recoil to boot. Obviously, players of high skill are going to gravitate towards it because it's a beast when you can actually take advantage of its time to kill stats and the aggression it affords. Does that necessarily mean, though, that the Foul is overpowered in the game? I would argue, no. because at distances where horizontal recoil starts to get a little troublesome, weapons like the M4, the AUG, or even the AK-74 are likely to beam the foul completely and laugh all the way to the bank. Again, folks, it sort of goes by that old saying, you cut the head of the snake, another head will appear in its place. And the same very much rings true for weapons that are appearing to be meta. I promise you that the players who are dominating you with the hot pick weapon of the month are going to do the exact same thing with the next hot pick weapon if you remove the first option from the list. So, to loop back and to wrap up the train of thought for this video here, I feel like weapon balance in BattleBit Remastered is going to be a very nuanced conversation. There is always going to be a meta in this game in which weapons perform the best for the highest KPM and KDR players, and that's just going to be a reality that we have to deal with here. But in saying that, if we get to a point where a weapon has a statistical anomaly that makes it perform so bloody well to the point where it's overbearing on the rest of the game's arsenal, then yes, a conversation should very well take place around the weapon's effectiveness and where some nerfs need to occur or where some buffs need to occur to other guns. The Vector very much falls into that category at the moment, but in saying that, there is a degree of nuance that needs to come from these conversations. Again, we can't necessarily take a personal experience of a skilled player murdering you with gun X, Y, and Z over and over again as a balancing metric. It needs to be consistent, aggregate information that then leads to conversations around the stats of a weapon that inform where it may be overperforming for its intended role and where some nuance may be required to bring it back down to the realm of balance. But folks, with all of that said, that kind of wraps up today's video discussing the weapon balance of BattleBit Remastered and the metas that have formed as a result of that. Hope you guys enjoyed the rather conversational video. It's something that we haven't done for a while on the channel, so if you want to see more, make sure you go ahead and hit the like button and also subscribe to the channel to keep up to date to all BattleBit Remastered content that we're releasing in the near future. And as always guys, check out our social media links down below, including Twitch, Twitter, Discord, all that fun stuff, to follow us there as well. Once again guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Peace out, and I will see you guys all in the next one. Take care guys, have a good one.